Hi, YouTube world. My name's Cricket. For some reason, which I won't get into here, maybe in another video, I have heart failure. My ejection fraction is 45%. It used to be 65% before I had my heart surgery. But now that it's 45%, I have to just be careful with my body. It's different. It doesn't work as well. One of the things that happens to me occasionally, I feel good about 80% of the time, but about 20% of the time, every once in a while, I feel like total crap. And I think I have a theory of why I feel like crap, and I have techniques that I use to feel better, and it sometimes works within hours. So I thought I would share them with you. First thing I want to say is I'm not a medical professional. I'm just a person with heart failure, and I just want to share what I think. I'm not seeing anything online that's explained this like this. So I wanted to share with what I think I've learned or gleaned from my doctors and just being in tune with my own body. So the first thing I want to share is what are the symptoms of heart failure that I feel like this can treat. And one is the edema. If you have heart failure, you know what that is. That's the accumulation of water in your tissues. In worst case scenarios, it'll start going into your lungs, which gives you pneumonia, and you can die from that stuff. So you don't want that. You want to keep your water volume and your edema at a low level as much as possible. Other things are lack of energy, want to just lie in bed all day, confusion, lack of memory. That was a big problem for me. When I'm not feeling well, I can't remember anything, literally. People will talk to me like, hey, I just met you. And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. Anyway, so why is it that I have heart failure episodes? So again, I feel good most of the time, but every once in a while I feel terrible. And I can usually trace it to two things. One is, so first of all, the reason I believe that you have worse heart failure symptoms than others, and I don't think this is a secret, is when you're holding too much water. What causes you to hold too much water? For me, it's allergic reactions to certain things, like dairy for me is a big one, citrus is another one. And the other one is salt. Salt is a huge problem when you have heart failure. And when I explained this to one of my friends that has heart failure, they were really surprised because it makes so much sense. The body, there's two things going on. When I have an allergic reaction, I believe that's my body kind of like just holding water so it can flush out the thing that I'm allergic to. So I think if some medications are like that for me, I bloat up big time when I take certain medications. And I think it's just your body wants to dilute it and then get rid of it. So that's one mechanism that I think that causes your body to hold water. The other one is salt. This is a well-known mechanism. Salt makes you hold water, and your body usually self-regulates that. But when you have heart failure, you can get this feedback loop where your body cannot excrete the water as fast as you're retaining it. And the reason for that is because the salt, your body naturally keeps its salt level at a certain level. And if you have so much salt in your body that you just put piling in water, what happens is your blood volume or your liquid volume is so much that, it's like an aquarium, like having a small aquarium pump, for your heart, trying to clean a pool. You just can't clean a pool. You can imagine it maybe will locally move some water around, but it can't clean the pool. It just can't. It's just too much water. And I think that's, how we get edema, because it just can't move the water around. If you can't move your blood around, you can't get enough oxygen, and when you don't have enough oxygen, you feel terrible. And that's the mechanism by which I think heart failure makes you feel terrible. Okay, so salt and maybe allergens or toxins, medications, that sort of stuff could do that to you. The other mechanism is like what alcohol does. And also your blood pressure medication, I believe, works on the same sort of thing, which is that it relaxes your blood vessels. So your blood vessels kind of open up a little bit, and that lowers your blood pressure. But unfortunately, what that does is, I believe, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's like the corridors, it's like if you had like a small amount of liquid, let's say, you can push a small amount of liquid. I have to be careful on my gestures here. You can push a small amount of water through a small pipe. It's easy. But when the pipe is bigger, it gets a little bit harder to push the water through. You need more power to do it. And if your heart is weak, like us with heart failure is, it's more difficult. So there's two mechanisms by which we have difficulty pushing the fluid around. So how do you avoid this? Because if you can avoid this, you're going to feel good most of the time. So let me tackle the one where your blood pressure, your blood vessels are kind of like more open. That's just a visualization I have. I don't know what the actual mechanism is. So alcohol, for example, and blood pressure medication, which I believe does the same thing. Alcohol, drink at your own risk. I only just drink very little and on special occasions, because that's when I had my first my heart symptoms. I would drink and pass out like all the time. My body couldn't keep the blood flowing when I did that. So I would say avoid alcohol if you can. It's very, very bad for your heart failure. The other thing to look at is adjusting your blood pressure medication. I felt like crap for a full 6 months before I went to my doctor. It was like my blood pressure was around 90/60 or 90/50. There were days like that, and I felt terrible, but I thought that's what life was after heart surgery. And then finally I mentioned it to my doctor, and they said, oh, well, why don't we try cutting your blood pressure medication in half? And I'm taking enalapril, whatever the dosage is, I forget. There's a standard dosage. Just break that in half. I felt so much better. My blood pressure raised to about 100/65 or something. I felt way better. And then when it's hot out, hot heat has the same thing. I don't know if you've noticed when you have heart failure, you freaking feel terrible when you're hot too. And it's that same mechanism. Your tissues expand and you just get more like flaccid. So when it's hot out, don't tell my doctor, but I actually cut my enalapril yet in half. So I'm only taking 1/4 of a dose when that happens, because when it's hot out, my blood pressure drops back down to 90 over or like 80/50 and stuff like that. I can't function. I just need to lie in bed all day. So I'll go back to half in the winter, because in the winter, I don't know, your vessels are more constricted, so I guess my blood pressure is higher. But I monitor my blood pressure daily, so I like to be between 100 and 115 over like 70. That's like perfect. And so I regulate my own enalapril that way. Maybe I'm not supposed to, but my doing that helps a lot. So avoid alcohol. Maybe ask your doctor to adjust your blood medication, or ask if you can adjust it based on how you feel. Because if you're monitoring daily, you're going to know how you feel. So I want to tell you, on a particularly hot day, I went off enalapril completely, and my blood pressure over a couple of days went right back up to like 135, 140. So enalapril definitely had an effect. And I know that the reason they want your blood pressure to be lower when you have heart failure is that so it doesn't have to work so hard keeping your blood pressure up. Yeah. So that's the two tips I have for dealing with feeling terrible if those are the mechanisms making you feel bad. So if your mechanism is that you're too much salt, allergens, maybe certain medications, like one of my, I don't know if it's my statin or something also makes me feel terrible, but anyway, that's in a whole nother video. So for salt overdose. So I call them a salt overdose. I don't know if you've ever had this, but let's say you go out to dinner for somewhere. You cannot calculate how much salt is in your meal. So just so you know, I eat low to no salt meals all the time. And if I know I'm going to go out with friends and have lunch, I make sure to have a no salt breakfast and I have a no salt dinner to keep my salt down overall. But let's say you make a mistake and like I wanted to share with you, like when I eat a Chick-fil-A sandwich, as much as I love Chick-fil-A, I actually fall asleep for 3 hours after I eat Chick-fil-A because the impact is too hard on my system. It's just too much salt. I mean, if you read the actual guidance, I finally read it, I was like, holy crap, I should not be having that much salt. Anyway, so let's say you go out with your friends and you have a ton of salt and you've had some wine and you feel like absolute crap, like you're going to die, can't even move out of bed. The first thing I try is I just lie down, make sure to lie down, because if you what I do is I lie down and I drink water. I drink 2 big huge glasses of water, and I don't get up until I've peed a lot. So I've peed a lot of the salt out. The reason you have to lie down is if you take a bunch of water and you're still sitting or you're standing, I find that exacerbates the heart failure, because now you have like more water than ever, and it's difficult for your heart to pump the water up to your head. So you got to be kind of like horizontal so that the water is circulating like this and getting through your kidneys, so your kidneys can gather it up, put it in your bladder, and you can get it out of there. So the key is to lie down while drinking water. Don't do it while you're standing up or something like that. You'll feel worse. Trust me, I've done it. That's how I finally figured this out. If I drink, because you get thirsty when you drink a lot of salt, because it's your body's natural thing to want to balance out its salt intake. But if you do it if you have heart failure and you drink it while you're standing, you'll never be able to clear it. So that's one tip that I have if you need to clear it out. So be patient, play some video games. It takes about maybe an hour or 2 to flush it out, and then try not to eat any salt for like a day or 2 until it clears all that salt. Then you'll feel much better, I promise you. The other technique I use, which I don't recommend unless you're just totally desperate. Let's say you've had an extremely salty lunch, and you're thirsty. You're really, really thirsty, and you know it's going to make your heart failure worse, and you get the brain fog. Yeah, what I do is I don't drink water. I know that sounds totally crazy, and it probably is killing my kidneys, but I can be functional until the end of the day. So if I have too much salt and I need to drink water, I don't do it until I can lie down, because I know that my body can't clear it properly. And when you start getting bloated with water, you get foggy, in my opinion. And it can get so bad where you actually feel weak, where you can't move, because your blood volume is so high that your blood is like just barely pushing the water around in there. So you're not getting any oxygen. So anyway, I think that's it. So let me see if I can recap my tips. I doubt it. Avoid alcohol, like, as much as possible. That's terrible for you. See if your doctor will adjust your blood pressure medication, or ask if you can adjust it. Maybe they'll give you a couple of options. The other one is lie down when you're drinking water after you've had salt. Avoid standing and drinking water when you've had a lot of salt. I forgot what my last tip is, but you get the idea. I hope it makes you feel better. I'd love to know what your strategies are for coping with it. I'm going to tell you, I feel way, way better after understanding this concept. I actually asked my doctor what I should do if I have this, quote, salt overdose. And he said, just don't do it, because once the salt's in your body, very difficult to get out. By the way, if you gain more than 4 pounds, I weigh myself every day. They counsel you to do it, but I swear by it. You'll actually feel the bloat, but when I get over 4 pounds of water, I take half a Lasix. Most doctors will prescribe Lasix to control your edema. I do believe you can overdose on Lasix. I'm going to do another video in the future where I talk about why I think Lasix can kill you if you don't take it in the right amount. For me, half a Lasix is perfect. If I get over 4 pounds, maybe even 3, I'll take a Lasix and I'll get rid of that water. And I don't feel terrible. I don't know if you've had the experience where you take a whole dose of Lasix and you feel worse. You feel like you're gonna die. And I really think it's dehydrating you. It does the opposite. It pulls out too much water and you feel like you're gonna die. So just, be careful with the Lasix. Anyway, Lasix only if you're like 4 pounds or more. If it's 2 pounds of bloat or less, try the water and the lying down. Okay, that's it now, for real. I hope you're well, and would love to know in the comments how you're dealing with stuff.